In this video, I'll be sharing with you a tutorial on how to cut and sew this stylish asymmetric neckline bustier with a yoke. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button. And this dress is from Katie Anthony on Instagram. So to start, here is my pattern paper and I've gone ahead to mark out my measurement. I marked my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and for this blouse length I added additional 5 inches after my waistline. So you can go ahead to measure the blouse length of your dress, or you can go ahead to add additional 5 inches after your waistline. Go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2 and I'll come down by 1 inch. From here, I'll mark a basic neckline of 3 inches. I'll place my ruler and connect to this point. The next step is to go ahead to find your chest line, and to find your chest line or armhole line is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So I'll take the measurement I have there and also mark it on the other side of my pattern, then go ahead to draw a straight line. Now whatever you have on your shoulder, go ahead to place it and mark on the chest line of your pattern, which is your shoulder divided by 2. After that, place your ruler and draw a straight line connecting from the shoulder to the chest line. Now place your tape, fold it into 2 equal parts or find the midpoint and come out by ½ inch. Here, place your tape at the chest line and mark your bust circumference divided by 4. After marking that, connect from that ½ inch to the upper part and from the ½ inch to your bust circumference divided by 4. That is where you have your round bust measurement. So what I'll do is to mark a basic neckline of 3.5 inches and I'll connect it from the shoulder to the depth of the neckline, right? So after marking this, I'll mark my dart. Now to mark your dart, you're going to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. And my nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. I'll mark it at the bust, under bust, waist and blouse length. So go ahead to take your own measurement and you're going to divide it by 2. Then go ahead to place a ruler and you're going to connect this all the way to the blouse length. Now the next step is to go ahead to divide what you have at the shoulder into 2 equal parts, that is the remaining part, and I'll place my ruler from the bust, connecting it all the way to the upper part. After I'm done connecting at that point, the next step is to mark my dart intake. For my dart intake, I'm using 1 inch at both sides. So now if you're plus size, what you're going to use is 1.5 inches on both sides, or if you're a bit busty, you'll be using 1.5 inches on both sides. After this, I'll go ahead to connect and also connect at the other side of my pattern. Now this is what I have. I'll place my ruler from the under bust and connect to the bust, then go ahead to connect at the other side of my pattern also. Now after I'm done connecting at this point, the next step I'll take is to outline my pattern. So the next step is to mark my dart. For this pattern, I'll be using a shoulder dart and I'll be using 1 inch on both sides. Now I'll place this and connect it all the way to the upper part of my pattern. After connecting it, I'll connect the other side. Now the next step I'll take is to start inserting my body measurements. I also went ahead to outline it. Here I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now for the dart intake, what I'll do is I'll take this dart that I have at the chest line, that is at the over bust part of my pattern. And this is what I'll be replacing by the side. So I don't want to use this at the shoulder because I might have an excess by the side of my pattern. Added a sewing allowance of 1.5. Here I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. I'll also mark my waist circumference divided by 4 here. I'm not snatching my waist. Then go ahead to measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. After that, I'll go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake I have here, replace and add my sewing allowance. Next, I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect my pattern starting from the bust to the under bust, from the underbust to the waist and from the waist to the hip or blouse length point. And I'll go ahead to outline with my marker. So next I'm going to mark my bust dart, and to mark my bust dart is the difference between my shoulder to waist in front and my shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17, while my shoulder to waist at the back is 15 and a half. Now if you take out 15 and a half from 17 inches, you have 1.5. So that is what I marked underneath my bust. Now what I'll do is to go ahead to use my tracing wheel to trace this out so that I can go ahead to mark this whole pattern on this other side of this pattern paper. Now after outlining that, what I'm going to do is to place my tape, and I'll come down a bit by 1.5. You can also use 2 inches. Now from this line here, I'll come up by 1.5 inches also, and I'll go ahead to connect. Now after connecting, I'll start creating this little curve we have here, and I'll be adjusting or taking it to the side of my pattern. Now before doing this, I will come up by 1 inch, and from here I'll make sure I mark my sewing allowance, right? If your sewing allowance is 1.5 inches, mark it so that when you're curving this, you will not cut out your sewing allowance. And after that, I'll just connect. So I ended up connecting this to the side. So this is so that when you sew out your sewing allowance, you still have that pointy edge at the end of this pattern. So after this, I'll be outlining that part also. So after I'm done outlining, I'll go ahead to work on the upper part of this pattern. So what I'll do now is also to repeat the same process at this side, right? I used my tracing wheel to trace it so that I'll be seeing it on this side. If you don't have a tracing wheel for this part, there's no problem. When you're cutting the other side, just cut your pattern on fold. So next, I'll open up my pattern, and it's time to alter the upper part. So this dart now we have here, I'm going to replace it at the other side. So that 2 inches dart here, I'll go ahead to draw a straight line from there and remark that 2 inches. Place my tape from here and come down by 1 inch. Now we'll now go ahead to connect it back to this pattern, right? And from here I'll have to reconnect it to the armhole of this dress. This is to replace that dart intake that we took out on the pattern, because we'll be blending our pattern back. So from here, the next step I'll take is to outline this. Now this sharp edge at the end of the armhole, I'll blend it off, connect it back to the armhole of the dress. I'll just go ahead to shed this out to indicate I have a dart there, right? Now after working on this part from the armhole of this side, I'll blend this off, and I'll go ahead to start connecting it towards the neckline of the dress. So I'm using my free hand here. If you're not okay with using your free hand, you can use your ruler, your curve drill, or your French curve to achieve this. After that, I'll draw out the neckline of this pattern, and then we'll move over to the other side of this pattern. I'll just write you to indicate that this is the part that is the yoke, and I'll now go ahead to label out my pattern as side front, center front, and side front. Now let's move over to the other side. For here, I'll blend in my dart, so I'm just going to mark extra 1 inch. There's no need replacing the dart because I don't need that because of the design of the sleeve we have here. The armhole side, I did -4, and I will connect it to that 1 inch on top and also to the armhole of the dress. Now this is what I have, and we are done drafting out this pattern. So you'll be attaching your sleeve at this point. So after that, I'll just go ahead and I will cut out this pattern. So if you have any question regarding this pattern drafting, please kindly go ahead to leave your question at the comment section. So I'll just go ahead and cut out this pattern, and while cutting it, you notice I blended off this part that has a dart, and I'll be cutting the yoke as one piece. Then go ahead to cut out this side. So blend out your dart here at the bust dart while cutting this off. Now after cutting that, I'll go ahead to now cut the center part of this pattern. Now go ahead to cut out the dart towards this side, right? So after cutting it, this is what I have, and I'll take out the darts here. Also remember to blend out your bust dart when you're cutting out your pattern. So this is what I have, and I'll go ahead to rejoin this pattern while sewing it. So to draft out the back, I didn't get to see it, so I'll be doing a basic back pattern. And for this pattern, I've marked out the measurement, which is the shoulder to bust, shoulder to waist. Remember, my shoulder to waist at the back is shorter, which is 15.5, and I added additional 5 inches to it. So the next step I'll take is to start marking my dart, which is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. And I mark this all the way to the lower part of my pattern, and I'll go ahead to draw a straight line. So after I'm done marking this, I'm going to mark my dart intake. Now for my dart intake, I'll be marking 1/2 inch on both sides of my waistline. Now I'll go ahead to place my ruler, connect this all the way to the upper part, and also extend it at the other side. Now after marking this, I'll connect this all the way down and also connect on the other side of my pattern. I went ahead to outline it, and now I'll insert my measurements. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. Here I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and then add my sewing allowance. After that, I'll go ahead to mark my hip measurement at the blouse length, and then I'll add my sewing allowance. Then I'll place my ruler to connect. Now after I'm done connecting from the hip all the way to the waist, or from the waist to the hip, for the yoke part, I'll be doing something very simple. I'm just going to connect this from here to the upper part, although I'm going to readjust it much later. So for this bustier, I'm using a lacing at the back. So what I'll do is to mark 2 inches all the way down. You can use 1.5. This totally depends on what you want to use. Now I'll now extend or readjust the yoke back to this point, right? So I'm just doing a basic yoke. You can do like the keyhole neckline at the back. So from here, what I will now do is to connect and then connect to the lower part of my yoke. I'll outline the chest line area, and from here I'll also outline the sides of my pattern, right? I'll go ahead to make a dot to indicate that I have a lacing here. Now I'm going to also go ahead to come down by 0.5 inches here and also 0.5 inches here. This is to tighten the yoke at this back so that I will not have excess at this part of the yoke, and I will reconnect it towards the chest line. After that, I'll just go ahead to cut out this pattern. So I didn't get to see the back pattern. I'm just using a basic back pattern for this dress, right? So if you have any question regarding this dress or this tutorial, please go ahead to leave your question at the comment section. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button.